Hey there, X Society. We're going to be talking today about one of my favorite Liam Neeson movies in recent years. It's called In the Land of Saints and Sinners. In the Land of Saints and Sinners. It's quite possible I mess up saying that title a few times, guys, as we're going through. So I'm probably just going to default it to Saints and Sinners. This movie, set in 1974 during the Irish Troubles, opens with four members of essentially the IRA or the Provisional IRA, whatever it is at the time, who launch a more or less a bomb outside of like a local pub. And you know right from the start that this movie is going to be extremely complex and probably violent because there is a family, a woman with her kids, that end up getting killed in this crossfire from the blast. Now, they weren't even trying to kill those people, but they end up killing a total of six people. Two of those people end up being eventual hit targets of someone named Finbar, and then that introduces us later to Finbar, who is essentially a retired contract killer for IRA and other things that lives in a kind of a coastal city, a coastal town. Think of it kind of like a little New England town if you're living in the United States. Not somewhere where you expect, for example, to find, let's say, a New Jersey mafia boss. That's kind of how it feels like if you're looking at Finbar Murphy living in a rural Ireland. Now, is Finbar, the same as the New Jersey Mafia boss? At first, I thought that Finbar had more of a role like a capo or something. It's clear to me as Finbar is going through that Finbar is more of a general hitman rather than being a, like senior officer in the mob cartel, whatever it is that you would call it in Ireland. So the leader of kind of like the Irish mob over there, or at least the local one, Robert McHugh, is aware of Finbar's general history and has kind of saved Finbar from a life of alcoholism and drug abuse by giving him contracts and whatnot to more or less kill his enemies. So Robert McHugh, in a weird way, is kind of like partly a mentor, partly a friend, partly a boss. However, Finbar also wants to be able, to move on eventually. He's starting to get older. He has built up a lot of friendships in the area. He has his friend Rita, who is his neighbor, and he also has a local Garda. Apparently, Garda means police in Ireland. Police officer named Vinny, and he's enjoying his time in Ireland here. Now he has one more kind of contract that he has to do for Robert, which is to kill one more individual who was also a former kind of contract killer. And in what was a powerful scene, actually, and I think shows just how many deaths or how many lives have been taken at the hands of Finbar is when Finbar, forces the man he's contracted to kill to kind of like dig his own grave. And there's a little tree that Finbar was going to plant over his body, and you kind of look out in the field and all around, and there's just like 50 trees. You're like, Jesus Christ, is this like this guy's garden? And they kind of joked about it earlier, where the guy's like, Finbar's like, oh, I want to retire and make a garden. It's like, is this the garden, or are you talking about the garden outside your home next to Rita? Lovely Rita, as John Lennon would say. So Finbar does that, and he asks Robert if he can leave. And Robert's actually kind of a pretty chill crime boss. He's like, man, I'm going to miss you. You did great work killing all my enemies. But sure, Finbar, you want to go? You can go. So Finbar's allowed to go. But Finbar discovers on a local woman's kid named Moya that Moya has bruises on her neck. And that one of the individuals that's around, here, Curtis, has been sexually abusing her. So Finbar goes to Robert and then Garda for advice. But it seems that most likely, if like they try to come forward or if Finbar makes a anonymous call, it's not going to help anyone. No one's going to get it fixed, and it might even just make it worse for her, which is really sad to think about. So Finbar, in typical hitman fashion, lures Curtis more or less into his car with the premise that Curtis can look at his gun. So guys, if you're a baddie and someone ever says, you want to come onto the road to look at my gun? Probably don't go with them. But Curtis actually manages to overpower Finbar for part of it, and it's only because Finbar's kind of friend, Kevin, hitman mentee Kevin, who's played by the guy that does Joffrey in Game of Thrones, was sent by Robert to keep an eye on Finbar, and he shoots literally, Curtis in the head, saving Finbar's life, and also killing the guy that Finbar intended to kill. But this unleashes an entire can of worms. Because when Curtis fails to return to that pub, his sister Doireann, wants to figure out what the hell happened, and she confronts Robert, who doesn't exactly know. She kills a bunch of people after they fail to disclose that as well. They end up more or less cornering Finbar and trying to say, if you don't do this, we're going to attack Rita as well. So Finbar, and this is something I didn't love in the movie, but it's fine. Finbar works with Doireann and says, I'll bring the guy that contracted the killing by the pub. And this unleashes a final scene of absolute chaos where it's Doireann and her associates and a bomb. In case things go wrong, there's a bomb. I guess Finbar, Kevin, the Garda, and eventually Finbar ends up winning this exchange with Rita, and Rita eventually dies from her wounds. Finbar takes her, buries her next to her brother who, in the tree garden, and then it ends up fading as Finbar's driving. So a lot happens in this movie. I think that this movie approaches a lot of things like trauma, grief, loss, identity, group dynamics, what it means to be part of a group, part of a movement. How does that change over time, over decades? It's an interesting question, because I've been in politics before. I've done stuff before, and it's like, the man that I was at 18 is a very different man than I would be at 28, or that I will be at 38. And the man that might act a certain way, at 18, I might not even think of acting that way at all at 28, or I might just have complete other methods that I didn't even think of at 28, or wouldn't even have thought of at 18 that I now can do at 28. So there's just a lot that goes through my head when we think about stuff like the Irish Troubles, where it's like, Finbar, I don't think Finbar's a good man. I don't. Liam Neeson's character, I don't think he's a good man. But do I think he's evil? No, I don't think this is an evil man. I think this gets into an interesting philosophical point. What is the definition of evil? Do our environments make us evil? And can we change, kind of our self-perception of whether we're evil or not? Because I think Finbar and a lot of the people in his community are willing to help him move on, or to let him move on. Rita, his neighbor, actually says, I never, I don't care what you did. Literally. And Finbar, Liam Neeson says, you never asked me what I did for a living. And Rita's like, should I have asked you? And it's a good question. It's actually something I think about as well. Like, do I care what someone does for a living? As long as, actually, I might care if my neighbor was a contractor hitman, because that might lead to some sketchy characters coming around, and also some people that want to kill them. And I'm a little bit worried if someone comes to kill them and they're not a good enough hitman, they might end up missing and fighting through the wall and hitting me while I'm doing one of these, Turtle TV reviews. So that would just be awful if I couldn't do more Turtle TV reviews because I got, assassinated by a hitman. So I'm going to try and avoid that. So where do we land on this movie in the land of saints and sinners? This is the second movie from Robert Lorenz that we have reviewed for Turtle TV and X Society TV and movies. The other movie that we reviewed in our review is up on our YouTube, TikTok, and X accounts, is The Marksman. We did not like The Marksman as much as this movie. The Marksman came out in 2021, so I would say that Robert Lorenz has done quite a bit of work in terms of his directing, I guess, his directing skill. I thought this movie was so much more fun to watch. This movie premiered at the 80th Venice International Film Festival on September 6, 2023, but it didn't come out, I think, in the United States until 2024, and it streamed, actually, I think, on Netflix starting in April 2024. That's interesting. I didn't know it was streaming on Netflix. I saw it coming on theaters, actually. And this is one movie I unfortunately missed in the theaters. I just couldn't get a slot with the AMC A-list to line up. So I missed this in the theaters, which sucks because I really would have loved to see this one in the theaters. But it was still a lot of fun to watch on streaming overall. And if you're looking to watch it on streaming and you're looking to save some money, check out if it's on Hoopla for you. Hoopla is a library service that lets you borrow TV, movies, comic books, a really good selection of comic books for free. So it's already set with your library, like, so you don't have to pay anything else. So if your library has it covered, you know, you can borrow the movie, and it's actually really cool. It's like you have to watch it within 3 days. So it's kind of like renting it on Amazon or Apple, but why not do it for free, right? That's my thought. Anyway, guys, this is Misha, X Society TV and Movies. If there's something you want us to watch, review, let us know. Clark Kent sent us a great recommendation for another Liam Neeson one. I think it's a 2014 movie, The Tombstones or something. We're going to check it out. But we out.